time at 7:37 for the performance rankings.
You know, that wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. That performances was just lacked that intensity.
Right, where do we start, Owen?
We're going to start with the bad this morning. There's a couple of clubs there, as you can see on the sidebar, Montpellier and Everton in the red, and I think Montpellier is a pretty easy one to go to. First of all, absolutely destroyed by Leinster yesterday. Leinster with their record win in the Heineken Cup. Just to get the previous record up here, it was 92-17 against Bourgoin in 2004, which was the previous record by Leinster. A team, Bourgoin, that is now called Bourgoin Jallieu, who are playing the third tier of French rugby. It has been a massive nosedive from their perspective over the last little while. Yesterday was 89-7 win for Leinster at the RDS. Just an absolutely, it was a shocking win, really, in many ways. And there was a lot of people during the game being like, that's what you get, you know, Montpellier for playing a second string team, and that's what Leinster give you when they feel they've been screwed over. Felt a little bit of sympathy listening to Philippe Saint-André, reading his comments this morning and talking about the amount of changes that he had to make, and how much he says that COVID has ravaged the squad over the last little while, because he's an honourable man and he seems like a sound gent, but other than that,
okay. I mean, they did manage somehow to come away with that 28-0 on the basis of stuff they'd said. Do you know, it was them. They certainly helped to spin that 28-0 their direction. So I don't know. Maybe the wages of sin are death, and the best type of revenge is served cold and you do your talking on the scoreboard. But Leinster are right to be pissed off with how they were treated by the tournament organisers, by the tournament generally. This does not speak well to the tournament. The tournament is a bit of a shit show at the moment, and if they manage to get out of this and into the knockout stages, and the thing is, right, there were loads of brilliant games. There were enough brilliant games across the tournament that everybody's like, okay, fair enough, but this can't keep happening. Stuff like this just can't keep happening. I realise COVID is a massive issue, and maybe when it all settles down, the individual clubs who are putting out their B teams will recommit to the competition properly. But what is the future for this competition? I'm not sure at the moment.
Yeah, cast with a whole pile of changes as well last Friday. It's interesting that La Rochelle are one of the teams that took this weekend really seriously, and they're obviously coached by an Irish guy, and there does seem to be just a different view from France towards this competition as we have over here, that they view their domestic league so much more importantly than the Irish provinces do, for a whole range of legitimate reasons, I would say as well. I don't feel overly sympathetic towards Montpellier. It was just during the game it was like more for Leinster, but afterwards just reading Philippe Saint-André, I'm like, okay, fair enough. I mean, you're in a not the easiest situation in the world, but I accept. I mean, they didn't exactly help Leinster out when they needed it a few weeks ago. That being said, if you bring it back to last year, maybe French rugby fans felt that Leinster didn't help Toulon out at all, and maybe this is all just like a domino effect from Leinster. But as it ended up, it was just Leinster, I guess, being Leinster, but just even more brutal than they usually are in the way in which they won the game.
We should say as well, Tadhg Furlong went off injured after 7 minutes in this game, which is obviously going to be hugely important in terms of the depth chart that we did last week. It was like, well, Andrew Porter is our second best tight head at the moment. That was what Keith Wood said on the show last week. So does that mean Andrew Porter gets shifted over? We'll see, you know. And the other thing about this is maybe actually a few injuries for Ireland heading into the Six Nations isn't the worst thing. Just tamp an expectation. Let's not see our full team out just yet. Play the kids in this one. I don't know. We want to win, but do we? Do we want to win? Are we sure we want to win this year? I don't think we want to win.
Like, it's to use an NFL phrase, we're in win now mode in 2023.
We're not win now right now. This is like a transition rebuild. We're keeping our cards close to our chest. We're looking to let the grass grow so that we can be in the long grass. Yeah. At the moment, the wild buffalo have been eating the grass, and the grass is really short.
Yeah.
And we're like, everybody's looking at the snake in the grass going, I can see you, snake. I can see you.
Yeah.
We need the grass to grow so we can be hidden.
Leinster rugby is just one big Husqvarna ride-on lawnmower.
Ah, it's like you're not even right on. It's the little
robot.
machine. Exactly. Stop cutting the grass.
Yeah. But that's the problem with Leinster when you put up when you score 89 points.
Yeah,
you're in lawnmower mode.
You're not hiding anything.
No. You mentioned the Tadhg Furlong injury yesterday as well. Obviously, James Ryan pulled up before the game, and Jordan Larmour going off injured as well is a bit of a setback, because you're watching him in the first half and you're thinking, now injuries would work in his favour for the Six Nations. Maybe not so much for. Maybe the Six Nations is too high stakes for the IRFU and for Irish rugby to be throwing in the kids. But it is a perfect scenario for injuries to fall in Jordan Larmour's favour, for him to rediscover himself this year in the Six Nations, and he looked really good in that first half. Hopefully his injury isn't too bad. But if you kind of like broaden that picture out over the course of yesterday, you're looking at some of those Ulster backs. You're looking at even the likes of Jimmy O'Brien for Leinster as well, and thinking to yourselves, like, this is a fairly exciting time if you're looking at the Irish backline. And I know we haven't got to the depth chart yet for Ireland's backs on the show, but they should be really, really interesting. Like, when you look at that Ulster performance later on in the day yesterday, is Michael Lowry edging in on being Ireland's second best fullback, I wonder, and how good are the rest of those kids around him? Like a backline with an average of around 22 yesterday if you take away Billy Burns. So it's just unbelievably exciting times from them. And I mean, you can't call Leinster exciting anymore, because we know exactly what their ceiling is, and their expectation is to win this whole thing out. But still, from Ireland's perspective, it does look like things are ticking along nicely.
Jacob Stockdale's still only 25, right? And obviously he still has to come back into the team. Balakoon's actually 24. I didn't realise he was as old as that, but his performance was like... The finish for his try was Hickey-esque, but he also runs with the ball in one hand, and... What is he? 194 and 100 kg, 6'4". Like, he's a cross between Shane Horgan and Dennis Hickey. Get him in the team. Let's see what he can do. Brilliant ball handling skills. So he was great. Larry was great. Doak was great.
Yeah.
Like, now.
And Doak is 20. Let's not forget it. He's the youngest of the lot.
And like, Doak had a full week this week. He knew he was playing because Cooney was injured and went off last week, and it was like, okay, big game, Franklin's Gardens. There's a massive presentation to Courtney Laws beforehand, where Courtney Laws brings his 4 kids out onto the 4 or 5, whatever. It's big, huge kind of moment for them, and it's like, no. Now they almost coughed it up at the end. They almost, unfortunately, had a similar response to Connacht, but they didn't. They got away with it, and that's one of those big wins for them. I don't know. I think you must be very excited if you are an Ulster fan at the moment. So Larry's 23, Hume is 23,
McIlroy's 21.
Yeah, and Doak is 20.
So that's an average age of just over 22 from those players, and like it's kind of hard to see sometimes which one is going to be the kid that actually sticks out and actually make a real mark at international level. But it seems at this point that they're being trusted in the biggest games. Granted, obviously the opportunity came up for Doak with Cooney's troubles this week, but it does feel that this crop of youngsters from Ulster are there to stay, and that this is like the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years at Ulster, in the backs anyway, sorted. And I know Ulster have had their problems up front quite a bit for the last few years. At the breakdown and in the scrum is going to be what will win them competitions, that this backline is going to put the icing on the cake quite a bit. But it does seem that this is maybe just a cut above some of the great Ulster backlines we've seen over the last little while. The standard setter obviously would be the team that maybe got to the Heineken Cup final in 2012. Is this team with its kids in the next couple of years able to get to that level? And you'd have to say that they probably are, if the pack are good enough and this progression keeps happening. Like that Doak try to put them 10-0 up, like you mentioned, the one-handed pick up there, Lowry, Balakoon, Doak, just 3 moments of magic in that try in particular, and you're thinking to yourself, this is special. This is not some sort of flash in the pan from these kids, and they're great to watch. Like there may be a caveat here in all of these results that you kind of say, are the Premiership teams also not as interested as the URC teams? But it does seem that it's URC number 1, Premiership number 2, and top 14 number 3 in terms of caring about the Champions Cup.
100%, yeah. We'll come back to this obviously with Ronan O'Gara in about 15 minutes time, but if you're an Ulster fan and you're feeling it this morning, drop us a comment. If you're a Connacht fan, or Connacht next?
Connacht are not next, but let's just quickly mention Everton, who are in the red this week. I mean, Roberto Martinez is is Barney Gumble being thrown out by Mo, and all of a sudden he appears behind Mo again in his pub straight away. That is Roberto Martinez. He'll be back at Everton in the coming days, and I don't think Everton fans are overly excited about his prospect, but they are about the prospect of Benitez not being manager this weekend.
Is he mad taking this job? Okay, so let's just play this out, right? You've got control of one of the best squads in the world, heading to the World Cup in 10 months' time, right? It's 11 months' time. It's the World Cup final is next week, 11 months. And your team, if they all stay fit, is going to be as competitive as any team in the middle of a season. This is going to be a smash and grab World Cup. All you need is 5 or 6 of your best players to stay fit, and enough players who can, do what you're supposed to do in the broiling heat. And you're going to double job. So they're talking about potentially, if Martinez takes it, it'll be on an interim basis till the summer. But then, if it works, if it doesn't work, your reputation is a bit shattered, and everybody at training is like, wait, do you have your Everton hat on here? Or is there or you got your Belgium jersey on? Which is it? My point is, stick with Belgium. I realise there's lots of money from Everton because they haven't a clue what they're doing, and you might get like a 3-year deal and get sacked in 6 months' time and get to spend a year on the beach and happy days. So I can see the allure, but there's a better job coming if you do a good job with Belgium, where you're going to do a good job with Belgium because it's the World Cup and they're like, you've got De Bruyne. Did you see what he did at the weekend? Look at the Everton team. It's terrible.
Yeah. Did you see what Lukaku did at the weekend, though? No, I'm going to joke. Belgium is clearly a safer job. There was nothing safe about Everton, and maybe you could there is a huge chance that your time at Everton is going to end because you get sacked. In fairness, that's the same at most football jobs at the moment. In fairness, but Everton is in just such a bad state at the moment that we will have. I think Nathan always makes this point that there's an annual Seamus Coleman interview where he apologises on behalf of his...
It's becoming one every 6 months.
It's one every 6 months at this point. So that's going to happen again next season. Maybe Roberto Martinez will be the blood sacrifice if that does happen. So I think you have a point. We can't lose sight, though, of the fact that Everton's woes have been increased by the fact that Adam Idah finally got his first Premier League goal. Oof. But not only did Adam Idah get his first Premier League goal, he managed to get the match of the day treatment. But not only did he get analysis from Alan Shearer, he got the whole hog. He got Mika Richards' laugh on the back of a Gary Lineker pun.
The winner was scored by the Republic of Ireland international, Idah. I'm not sure it's Idah or Idah, but it's definitely Idah or Idah. We'll go with Idah.
What a day for Norwich. What a day for him, his first Premier League goal.
I didn't get it. I couldn't hear it. So what was it?
He said, I'm not sure if it's Idah or Idah, but it's definitely either or either.
Okay.
Yeah. He's made it, Adam Idah. He's made it.
What I liked about the finish was that it was really scratchy and scrappy, and it wasn't so I don't know if you all saw his chance during the week where he gets the ball, dribbles past 3 lads and then smacks it, and it's up against it's saved onto the crossbar by Fabianski. Right, it was against West Ham, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what Jeff Stelling was talking about that. But this was it was a beautiful counter-attacking goal, and I don't know, it's if he can do that and he can do the stuff he was doing during the week. I'm trying very hard not to get too excited, but it's hard.
I'm trying very hard for my excitement not to be completely ruined by that match of the day moment, to be quite honest. That just ruined the whole day for Adam Idah, I suspect. He could have had 2 as well at the weekend. The Michaelenko back pass was comically bad, and he could have scored from there. But also, just moments before that, he creates a great opportunity just by getting into a wide position, cutting down the end line and squaring the ball for a teammate. It's that work around the pitch which Adam Idah has been so good at for the last little while, and then getting on the ends of moves with Timo Pukki playing in front of him is something that he seems to have added over the last couple of weeks. So things are looking okay for him. Granted, it's 1 goal, but his celebration, you didn't need to see the celebration, but if you didn't already feel absolutely delighted for Adam Idah, then the passion in his response to scoring a goal will have just put you to that place anyway.
Yeah. Oh, it was really, really exciting to see him reaching that level and having the support from the new manager who comes in and has picked him again and again, really, and is sticking with him, and it's getting rewarded. And they're like, is it possible they don't go down? I mean, it is this stage. The season is so crazy. Like, Newcastle drew. I mean, are all these Newcastle players going to bet in straight away? Are they all going to really decide that they want to play for Eddie Howe? I'm not sure. We'll talk about that with Vinnie Perth a little bit later.
Yeah, and it's like the crazy thing about the season is that Burnley are 2 points behind Norwich and they have 4 games in hand at the moment. That's the situation that we're in. If we move on to the Amber this morning, Connacht in the Amber, this would have been the definition of a green had things managed to hold out at the sports ground on Saturday. It was a really good performance for a lot of the game from Connacht to have come back from the early 14-0 deficit at half-time, no less, and to put in that second half performance. Like, it was on the verge of becoming like one of these really famous European days for Connacht that would have been benchmarked by qualification essentially for the next round. Now, because they ended up getting 2 bonus points from the game, there is a good chance that Connacht go through anyway, and that's why it's not a complete disaster for them. But I don't think Andy Friend was thinking about that whatsoever in the aftermath of the game, because it was gut-wrenching. It was like, from a Connacht perspective, Ronaldo scoring 2 goals at the end against Ireland a couple of months ago. It was just, this was such an opportunity. Both of these games, one in Welford Road as well, it's such a great opportunity for Connacht to get one over these teams.
Was that in 2021? I think that was in 2020. I think you're lying to me about the timing. Go on.
No, like, time is definitely not a real concept at the moment. Like, sooner or later they're going to have to get one of these wins, but I think at this point the progression they've shown this season has been noted, really. And like, of course they're going to lose maybe the likes of Delan next season, and trying to keep this up and trying to build on this over the course of the next couple of years. It's not always a guarantee with Connacht, as we saw after the Pro 12 a couple of years ago, but there's something exciting building there this year.
There was a very important factor that, like, Pat Lam left very soon afterwards. Like, you would hope that Andy Friend sees progression within the system as a definite possibility here, because, you know, listened to a lot of the comment over the weekend about how you can tell how well coached the team is and how the players are getting better. Like,
that's the thing.
Connacht are getting better. Connacht are a really well coached team,
and that's exactly it. It's not so much new arrivals or anything like that. It's the players who were there last season are better players now than they were 12 months ago. Yeah, that's an amazing statement on Andy Friend.
And players who've lost form recently are getting their form back again. You know, it's exactly the type of thing. How do you get your form back when you've lost it? Well, with the support of good coaching and your network and, you know, hard work and all that kind of stuff. But, like, it doesn't always happen, and it is happening at Connacht at the moment. So, like, it feels patronising to be talking about Connacht having been beaten in the way that they were beaten. But this is one of the best teams in England who weren't just picking their B team, who did want to win this game and who are in a roll at the moment. So, I don't know, I think they should be sickened. They should be rightfully sickened. But at the same time, cold light of day, midweek, they're like, let's go and qualify. Let's see where this journey takes us this season.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, I mean, the going from 24 teams to 16 may seem a bit farcical, but I think in this situation it's like, get Connacht into the knockout stages. We'd all be pretty happy with that. They're in the Amber this week. In the Green, then, 2 things to touch on. First off, Seamus Power. Seamus Power could, like, just buy a house in Hawaii and just live there full time and play like 2 golf events a year, and he'd make a pretty healthy living. He finished in a tie for 3rd over the course of the weekend in Hawaii, earned at the Sony Open, that is, earned $442,000 last night. He was obviously T15 at the Tournament of Champions last week, and he's into the world's top 50 for the first time. So he's thinking about Magnolia Lane at this point. He's thinking about teeing it up at the best, and obviously there's a lot of time to go between now and then. But if you're looking at, I mentioned there a moment ago about Connacht and their arc at the moment, that it's just been constant form over the last little while. Then Seamus Power, he was 436th in the world last January. He's now into 49th. It's just been a remarkable time, and he's kind of like making Sunday night's appointment viewing for anybody who wouldn't necessarily be drawn towards some of these PGA events. That being said, I mean, the leaderboard was fairly well stacked last night. Hideki Matsuyama did beat Russell Henley in a playoff at the end. They both got to 23 under par. We're seeing big scoring at the moment, and but yeah, Seamus Power in the mix in a tie for 3rd, and a lovely payday. He loves Hawaii.
Yeah, and you can see why. Absolutely. Sensational performance from him over the weekend. I'm on the Golf Channel. His biography, speaks Gaeilge, or Irish Gaelic, the national and first official language of Ireland. Says if he wasn't a professional golfer, he'd be an accountant. Always been good with numbers. Math, chemistry and physics were always my strongest subjects. They've changed that, because there's no way he said math, is there? or has he gone full GMAC at this stage?
He has, yeah. But in fairness, he's like coming from a different place. He's been playing over there for so long. I think the first time I heard him speak wasn't necessarily with the Waterford brogue. It was more with the American accent. Yeah, he was GMAC before GMAC was cool, to be honest.
Well, there you go. And hopefully, look, not to put any pressure on him, but obviously, GMAC has won a major. But he's looking forward to the rest of the year, thinking I can do anything at this stage.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, it was an amazing sort of late Sunday night for Irish sport in general. Ireland's cricketers got their ODI series win in the West Indies as well. This was a nervy finish. It was on, I think, the Red Button and BT last night. The man of the moment was a Tyrone man, Andy McBride, who suffered a concussion earlier in the week in the first of the 3 games. Sorry, not earlier in the week, that would have been a couple of weeks before that. And he went 4 for 28 as the West Indies were bowled out for 2-1-2 earlier in the day yesterday. And then he went to the other side of the ball, batted, followed up with his second ODI half-century, and Ireland get home in the 45th over. So Andy McBride, was the man for Ireland last night. This historic win in Jamaica away to the West Indies is one of the other stories we were keeping an eye on last night. The other thing we're putting in the green this morning is Mayo, because that was the third of the big stories coming out last night. As you mentioned, it was a late night statement from Mayo GA to confirm that Oisin Mullen is staying put, and it does add a little bit of a different tint into this year's All-Ireland Championship. But the context here is that everybody's really excited for this year's All-Ireland Championship anyway. Like, I don't think anybody would have said that Mayo are not a contender even without Oisin Mullen, and I would venture even without Cillian O'Connor. They'll always find a way of getting themselves into contention, but this just makes them a real front runner, I would say, at the moment, if we accept that Dublin aren't going to get back to the level they were a couple of years ago, which they won't, but they'll still be in the mix. Mayo will still be in the mix. Well, Tyrone, obviously.
For anybody just joining us, at the top of the show I asked you, does this have an impact? I thought you were going to say no. I thought you were going to immediately be like, no. My performance rankings would already have, my power rankings would already have included the fact that I thought that more than likely Oisin Mullen was going to stay. But incorrect. You're now telling me that your power rankings were wrong last week, Owen, and that things have changed. New information came to light, buddy. The rug really brings the room together. Oisin Mullen really brings the room together.
He really brings the room together, there's no question about it.
So what's happening?
Mayo are into number 3 in the power rankings, and there's no getting away from it.
Very casual about this, Owen. This is like this. You're very casually just like making the people of Mayo this morning feel a little bit in themselves, going, what happened?
Yeah, like, I mean, how can you deny those?
Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are going to win the Super Bowl.
And no, I mean, like, even if Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl, it's not going to be.
That's a big sign.
It is a big. I mean,
that's like Cleveland.
I was going to say Cleveland in 2016 was a big sign, but it wasn't in the end, was it?
Well, it is. I mean, like in 2022, when Mayo win, they'll be like, the Red Sox winning was a good sign for us. We knew then that we were doing the right thing. I saw somebody tweeted the other day that the next season or the season after, Spurs' last title win will be closer to 1890 than it will be to the current era. If you just trying, and if you go backwards from Mayo's last win, what are you, with every passing year, are you getting into like 1890s? Is it? Are we the midpoint? Like the invention of the steam engine will be next. The Jurassic era will be next, and all of a sudden, it's like, no. The Bills win, Oisin Mullen staying, thanks very much.
Like, when we had these conversations about Mayo, and like we have them quite a bit about like when this era of Mayo player is going to end, I don't think we've quite had the conversation about whether or not this Mayo team could potentially be the best of the century. Like, because that is a live possibility. I'm not
the best Mayo team of the century.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Mayo's best team of the century.
Okay.
Because there is this possibility around a lot of these younger players who really came on stream last year, or maybe not even some of the younger players like Paul O'Hara, who's much older, who kind of just arrived last year all at once, and without their talismanic forward, they just really didn't land a shot at all in the final. But there is still a lot of improvement, I feel, in those new faces to come along, and that there will be newer faces this year as well. You throw back into the mix of fit Cillian O'Connor, as I said earlier, himself and Diarmuid O'Connor, the only two people before Oisin Mullen who've done back-to-back Young Players of the Year, and then Oisin Mullen does it as well. The three of them are in the same squad. That is how highly rated those three players are, and then they've got all the parts around them. That I just wonder is...
There's no more excuses.
The conversation around, the end of that great team that came so close in 16 and 17 and 15... and 13.
Right.
Like, are those, like, did we miss the point completely? Were they actually just getting out of the way for a better team to come forward and actually?
They were John the
win in
Baptist, and this is Jesus Christ.
But potentially.
They all had the Jesus Christ hair and everything.
Well, exactly. I mean, Jesus Christ, if he was around today, would be saying to himself, Jesus.
Blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus that we're used to.
I wish I put it into the Yoshi Mullen style. That could have been you, Jesus, but you obviously didn't have the foresight. Just a quick mention of some of the other
30 seconds, yeah.
stories. Andy McEntee is not happy with the club action getting a big spotlight.
Why don't we come back to this later, because it's actually a really good talking point.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so it's 3 minutes past 8 this morning here on OTB AM. Owens, go on, spit it out. What?
No, the tension. Like, if you haven't caught Andy McEntee's comments,
it's a cliffhanger.
Get them later on.
3 minutes past 8. That is this week's performance rankings.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.
If you want to enter our performance ranking competition, by the way, all you got to do is get in touch with us on whatever platform you're on and tell us who you think should be in the red, who you think should be in the green, who you think be in amber, whatever. And you know the rules by this stage, and you could win a Gillette starter pack. We're going to take a quick break. We're back with Ronan O'Gara.